2019 meeting of the Sherborn Select Board, and I'll ask the town administrator to read the agenda.
First, thank you, Mr. Chair. First, we'll amend or approve the agenda, and then a period of public comment. I think there are 2 signed up.
Yeah.
Then a consideration of consent agenda that includes a payroll warrant and the next meeting dates of September 5th, 2019 for borrowing only, and then meeting dates of September 12th, September 26th, October 10th, and October 24th. The next item is signing of bond anticipation note for library and 2019 annual town meeting capital items. And then Meadowbrook Commons with Pulte Group, Mark Mastroianni and Matt Leidner, and CDG. Okay. Consideration of appointments. There's an attached sheet of Disability Advisory Committee, Historic District Commission. And then under routine business, Finance Director report, the reserve fund transfer request from PD for a staffing study. And then Town Administrator report with consideration of Sustainability Coordinator draft job descriptions. And then Select Board member reports. Then it's adjourned to executive session, not to return to open session for the following purposes as authorized under MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A. Subsection 3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation and potential threatened litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigation position of the town and the chair so declares, police union arbitration and alleged unfair labor practice charge. Subsection 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the public body and the chair so declares, police union. Subsection 4, to discuss the deployment of security personnel or devices or strategies with respect thereto. Subsection 3, to discuss strategy with respect to threatened potential litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the town and the chair so declares, library project.
Thank you. I have some public comments sent up. First, I have Sean Colleen to talk about road closures.
You want to approve the agenda?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor? Sorry about that. Go ahead, Sean.
This is just a quick update. For those of you that travel down Farm Road coming back from Dover, you've noticed there's a sign notifying residents. I'm going to follow up tonight with a next door post to let more residents know. Next week, Wednesday, Thursday, the 21st, 22nd, we're going to be closing kind of the center section of Farm Road. There's some, if you haven't noticed, there's a few dead trees on that road. There's some large ones that need to come down. We really are motivated to get them down before the start of school for obvious reasons. And there's also some work that needs to take place that a road took a hammer in a week and a half ago during one of those storms. So there's some road edge work that needs to be done before we chip seal. We won't be chip sealing that until September, but we're doing most of this work in preparation for that. Residents will still be able to get through. There will be a crane about in front of the cemetery at 218 Farm. You won't be able to get past that. You'll have to go forest the loop around the pond to get in.
Is that the one near Forest Street? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, we're working just above Forest, and then there's some trees right on the corner that are really bad that we'll be doing, but the road will be back open. We won't be closing towards Dover because that would route to everyone through Medfield. That's all.
Thank you. Carol Marple.
So it is my pleasure to tell you this evening that last month, Jackie Morris, the Assistant Town Clerk, completed her 3 years at the New England Municipal Clerk Institute and is now eligible to pursue her clerk certification. So that's a really big deal. So we had a little celebration at Town Hall, and this is the culmination of a lot of hard work on her part and a lot of study. So I just commend her for that.
Thank you.
Congratulations to her.
Jackie.
That's great.
Well done.
Mark, you'd put your name on here, but you didn't have the public comment to start, right?
I do not have any.
Okay. Next on our agenda is a consideration of consent agenda. Do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor? So the next item on the agenda is Heidi Doyle with the signing of bond anticipation note.
I thought that was a sign sheet.
Oh, sorry, no, that's what I figured. That's when I saw your name on here, I figured you were signing it.
That was the right answer.
Good evening, Heidi Doyle, Treasurer, Town of Sherborn. Here tonight to ask for the Select Board to approve and award the next borrowing anticipation note. And this is, we just went out for bid on it. The amount that we're looking for is $2,799,447. It's for a one-year borrowing. And as we discussed the last time, I can review the items that are in it, if you would like me to, or we could just ask for a motion to approve the item. It's for the library borrowing, and also the capital items that were approved at the ATM meeting, the all-town meeting this last spring.
Who was
if
the
the-
winning bidder?
The winning bidder was Oppenheimer and Company, which is a global asset management company. The bids ranged from 1.93% up to 2.1%. I have the sheet if anyone's interested in seeing it. Oppenheimer won with a bid of 2.0, but gave us a premium amount of $7,305, which then gave us an effective rate of 1.74. So we lucked out nicely this time with the borrowing. Yeah.
Good job.
So I think we need a vote to award the borrowing.
And who are you recommending? We don't have it in the motion.
Oppenheimer and Company.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Oppenheimer or Oppenheimer?
Oppenheimer.
Great.
So,
I would move to vote to award a borrowing for library building construction approved at the spring 2019 All-Town Meeting, capital items, and the elder housing renovation in a bond anticipation note of $2,799,447.00 to Oppenheimer and Company.
second.
All those in favor?
And then if I could get you to sign.
Yeah, sure. While we do that, the next item on the agenda is Meadowbrook Commons, so if you want to get set up while we're signing this, that would be great.
Selectmen are going to be signing with you.
Any questions how to turn the projector on?
Need to borrow your pen though too, so oh, this is Chuck's pen anyway.
I've got the blue on the top.
Just one document? How many versions do you sign?
The whole file.
3 versions?
Oh, they're both this yellow, right?
The green page.
I think you signed yellow over there.
No, I didn't. Oh, that, the green is that whole.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm good. Thank you.
Could use the municipal agreements leverage to get a committee to frustrate their firms. In the municipal agreement.
I think I signed the right place.
I feel like Rita O'Reilly at MASH, you know how you used to always put stuff, just sign this, just sign this.
Keep using pens, Chuck. I got 5 of them floating around.
What's that? We got checkmate pens over here. Thank you.
We
No.
we raised enough
I
money
have
this
one.
week, we can keep printing them.
Keep printing pens. we all set?
Oh, one more, okay, sorry.
Is Brianne from?
All right. So if you want to get started, just introduce yourself and kind of give kind of where we've been and where we are today.
All right, thank you. My name is Matt Leidner. I'm with Civil Design Group on behalf of Pulte Homes of New England. With me tonight is Reed Blute, Mark Camo, and Mark Mastriani, also of Pulte Homes. And we're here to talk about two projects. So I have a map up on the screen here. One of them is the Meadowbrook Commons project, which is a 55 and over residential for sale condominium townhome project under the town's Residence EA zoning. And then adjacent to that, just below it on the screen there, is the Coolidge Crossing project, which is a rental apartment 40B project. And I wanted to start with this locus map here, just to, I'm sure most people, or I assume most people, if not all, know where these projects are, but just to give kind of a sense of where we are in town here. So they're both located up in the northern section of town, off Coolidge Street, not too far from the Natick town line, and also the City of Framingham municipal line. And so our goals tonight are to give an update on where we stand with both projects, just kind of a status update, and answer any questions that you may have on the two projects. And then also, and perhaps most importantly from our standpoint, is also to talk about the fact that both these projects are reliant on municipal water and sewer connections from neighboring towns, and I'll get into that in the presentation. And our goal and our hope tonight is to leave here with, an understanding that hopefully the town and the select board here is supportive of what we're proposing for the municipal water and sewer connections, and they will ultimately require an intermunicipal agreements with Natick and Framingham. Again, I'll get into that. And so we're hoping to have the board's support for those connections and these two projects. So to start with the Meadowbrooks Common project, this is a rendering of the site. So again, it's a Residence EA project under the town's zoning, and it was approved, the EA district was approved on this site back in 2017 at town meeting, and that also had the support of the planning board at that time. And so we're now moving forward, Pulte's moving forward with this project, and we have recently presented informally, similar to tonight, but to the planning board back in June, just to bring them up to speed on the project. And in fact, we have other team members, and after this meeting, we'll be going over to the Conservation Commission meeting as well. Since some time has passed, we're back before the Conservation Commission to revisit the wetland lines and make any adjustments that may be necessary based on the current status of the wetlands. So we'll be before them tonight as well. In terms of the 40B project, so the Coolidge Crossing site on that plan there, just to the south of Meadowbrook Commons, adjacent to it, Pulte has been in discussions with numerous developers. So Pulte is a company that builds for sale housing. So they are in the process of partnering and discussing potential partnerships with other developers that can work collaboratively with them to build the 40B, the apartment project adjacent to the EA project. So we had hoped that those discussions would be a little bit farther along tonight, and we had actually hoped to bring the apartment developer in tonight to introduce that company and give an overview of that project as well. Unfortunately, we're not quite there. They are in discussions, and we believe an agreement will be forthcoming. So once that occurs, we will certainly follow up with the select board, give an update, and then introduce that partner to you folks as well. So that being said, the overview I give tonight will be focused on the EA project in terms of just the project overview, but what I'll follow up with is the discussion about water and sewer, which really applies to both projects. So this, again, is a rendering of the Meadowbrook Commons project, which is the Residence EA project under the town zoning. The site, which is outlined in yellow on this plan, is about 22 acres, and the proposal is for 67 townhome-style units on this site. They will all be 55 and over, for-sale condominium units, and they'll all be two-bedroom home ownership units. A mixture of well, they're all multiplex buildings, although there is, because of the odd number of units, 67 units, there is actually one detached townhome as well. But the majority of them are duplex-style units, so two attached condominiums. The main access, just to get your bearings here, Coolidge Street runs along the bottom of the page here. Meadowbrook Road is along the left side here. So the main access into the project site will be off Coolidge Street, coming up into the site with a loop around the proposed development. The spur over here, which connects into Gray Road, which goes to Meadowbrook, that is proposed only as an emergency access, so it would be gated under typical circumstances, and only that gate would only be opened in the event of an emergency. Police, fire, those personnel would have access to be able to open that gate to enter the site. So under typical conditions, that would be closed. The only access would be that Coolidge Street main driveway. We are proposing sidewalks that connect through the development, but also connecting out to Coolidge Street and out to Gray Road, so the pedestrian access and circulation will be really nice on this project. And we're also proposing a trail connection over, it's this line here. So there's a network of trails up in this area, the Peters Hill Trails, and we're proposing to connect the development via a trail out to that trail network. So pedestrians will have the ability to walk within the site, but also get out into that network of trails as well. So it'll be a really nice amenity, we think. We included just some sample architecture. So as we advance through the planning board special permit process, we'll be submitting similar and potentially more detailed architecture. But at this point, these are some examples just to give you a flavor for what type of units and townhomes and what the architecture may look like and what we envision for the project at this point. So being 55 and over, they're all master bedroom, first floor, which allows for single level living. They all have two car garages, open floor plan. It's been tested and proven in this market. Pulte has a lot of experience in this market, in this region, with similar style units. The floor plans will range from about 1,600 to 2,400 square feet, depending on the actual unit type. So there's a mixture of different architectural styles being proposed. And if I go back up here. And so on this plan here, you can see this is the Meadowbrook Commons site. So over here in black, kind of in the background, is the apartment project. So again, I'm not going to get into detail about that tonight unless there's specific questions, just because an agreement hasn't been finalized at this point. And
I have a question, if I could.
yes.
Is that showing a road going from the project through the 40B project down to Coolidge Street?
Correct.
So there's essentially, you could say there's two accesses.
As,
One is the one you indicated, and a second one through the other project?
there's two accesses that at this point we would envision being open and full access. So the one I spoke about here for the Meadowbrook Commons project off Coolidge Street, and then a little bit farther to the east, we envision there'd be another full access here that would go into the apartment area. And at this point, although preliminary, we're showing a connection between the two projects here. So yes, you are correct. That's what we are showing on this plan at this point.
For those of us that don't look at plans all the time, the gray silver etchings behind the proposed apartment building and up by the gray road connector, are those wetland identifiers?
These etchings
Yes.
here, and yes.
Those are identifying boundaries of the wet.
Right, and those are the wetlands that were taken from the plan that was approved back in 2017. So we're before the Conservation Commission tonight to discuss those wetlands and potentially make any adjustments that may be necessary just because a couple of years have passed. But to answer your question, those are the wetland lines.
So before you go on to the next slide, can you just explain what the difference is between this plan and what was approved at town meeting?
Okay, this is really just a refinement of that plan, and in fact, I have that plan a few slides down here, so if I go to that plan, it's this. So this is the plan that was approved at town meeting. So same number of units, townhome-style units, same orientation where access here from Coolidge Street coming in with the loop, and then the townhome units around that loop with the connection to Gray, the emergency access to Gray as well. And then this plan also showed the connection to the apartment area. So we've merely taken this plan and just advanced it. So there's no fundamental changes. We've taken the road that was approved back then and the units, and we've just refined it to the next step.
And those are all duplexes?
There's one singleton.
Yeah, they had some more singles on their plan.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mastriani Pulte. So, in addition to to what Matt said, I think one other tweak to the plan that is reflected is that there's 7 affordable units associated with the zoning that was approved. So there were 7 affordable units on this plan, and there's also 7 affordable units proposed under our plan. So that hasn't changed. What is a little bit different is that under this plan, there's a group home that was proposed where five really little units are proposed, and then there's a duplex with 2 additional little units. And in our discussions with DHCD, which is Department of Housing and Community Development, who monitors the affordable home program, in order for the affordable homes to count on the town subsidized housing inventory, which our understanding is very important to the town to get to that 10%, the homes can't be basically segregated in an area like that, and they can't be dissimilar to the other market style homes that are being provided. So in our plan, we updated that so that all 67 units are similar and alike, and that the 7 affordable units will be equally distributed throughout the community so that they're not known from the outside. That's really the compliance with DHCD. So by doing that, we lost a little bit of room, and that's why we have more duplexes on our plan versus the previous plan. So we still have singles and duplexes just like approved. We still comply with the square footages that were approved. Our architecture is very similar to what was approved. We just, in order to comply with DHCD so the town could get the benefit of the 7 affordable units, we had to add some extra duplexes.
Do we have to go back to town meeting for these changes?
The planning board hasn't ruled, we haven't ruled on that, so if you want my personal opinion, or the planning board hasn't made an opinion.
I'm just curious about that, so we know where we are in this thing.
Mark,
If I could add to
Go
that.
ahead, go ahead, Gino.
The bylaw says that the preliminary development plan can be tweaked, but what can't be changed is the number of units, and the building footprints can't increase by more than 10%.
So that meets that test?
It would appear to, as John said, the planning board hasn't discussed it, but that's kind of a baseline thing that the preliminary development plan is not in concrete. It does have some flexibility.
Mark, the current proposal
Just,
is...
sorry, Marion, I think I've
I
already
just want to
said.
add to that a bit. It's also possible, though, that if there are other significant changes to the project beyond the footprint, that the planning board thinks are significant enough to take it back to the town meeting, it can go back to town.
Sorry, go ahead, Chuck.
Mark, quick question. The original proposal, I can't remember if the 7 affordable units were rentals or for sale. Your proposal, the Pulte proposal, is there are for sale affordable units.
That's correct.
Was the Trask proposal, were they rental, or is anybody, I thought they were rentals, my vague recollection.
Since you're here.
I think there was some discussion, but there was no definition. We talked about a potential rental option with them, but it was never defined either way.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
One more quick question.
Yes.
How many, you said it was what, 23 acres was the,
Approximately 22 acres.
and how
Yes.
much is the commons?
It's approximately 14, I believe.
Okay.
Yes.
thanks.
Yep, the Coolidge side.
Coolidge.
Yes, okay. All right, so in terms of what I had started out by mentioning, one of my first points, municipal water and sewer. So these are critical items to these projects, that they be on municipal water, municipal sewer. So we have explored that with neighboring towns, so town of Natick and city of Framingham. The estimated water use and sewer flow from this project is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of probably 30 to 35,000 gallons per day, which is approximately 10,000 gallons per day from the Meadowbrook, the Residence EA project that you're looking at here, and then approximately 20 to 25,000 gallons per day is what we anticipate from the apartment project. And so, as I mentioned, there will be intermunicipal agreements that would be required in order to bring those utilities into these projects. And that's why we're hoping to get your feedback and hopefully support tonight so we can continue to move forward in those discussions. In terms of water, municipal water, the proposal is to bring that in from the city of Framingham. Pulte and their team has met on several occasions now with the Framingham DPW. They're open to the idea. They've been receptive to the idea. Pulte has engaged a water and sewer consultant to begin the initial planning and design phase of bringing the water in. And likewise, the city of Framingham has, in their discussions, pointed Pulte to their peer reviewer, and Pulte's engaged that peer reviewer to review the city's water model and the projected flows and start looking at that aspect of it on behalf of the city. So that discussion is well underway, and we're making great progress with that at this point. I brought a plan here. This shows at the current stage that we're at what we anticipate for being the route that the water main extension would take. So the project site is right here. This is Coolidge Street here, and this is Meadowbrook. It kind of runs off the page here. So it would extend from the terminus here on Kendall Avenue extend eastward to Coolidge and then come down Coolidge to the Meadowbrook Commons frontage, so the more westerly frontage of the project, and then come into the site and then service the 55 and over project, and then come through also and service the apartment project. So all in all, not counting the internal water main inside the project, it's about a 3/4 of a mile extension of the water main within the public roads.
Yeah, because right now it already, Framingham Town Water already supplies an apartment condo unit next to Sunshine Dairy.
Okay. Right.
I think it's actually shown,
Yeah, it's right there.
I think it's the end of the yellow terminus, so that, if that's correct, Gino, yeah.
Up here?
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's a 3/4 mile extension to the rest of the site?
Right, so from this point here, which is where we anticipate we would connect, it's 3/4 of a mile, plus or minus, but about 3/4 of a mile from there, following this path to there.
And that connection has been there for 20 years?
Actually, even before that,
Yeah.
it served the old Sunshine Dairy restaurant.
Sorry.
Oh, no problem. So, again, that discussion's been initiated and actually is well underway to the point where we've engaged their peer reviewer to start looking at this as well. And then in terms of sewer, the current proposal is to bring sewer in, or I should say run the sewer from the project into the town of Natick and connect to their sewer system. So similar to Framingham with the water, the Pulte team has met with the Natick DPW several times at this point. They're receptive and open to the idea of allowing the projects to connect the sewer into their system. And Pulte's engaged their same consultant that's working on the water with Framingham to work on the sewer with Natick. And so the current concept here and proposal is to run the sewer from the project site here, out Gray Road, that short dead end that comes off Meadowbrook, down Meadowbrook, and then, let me make sure I have my roads right, so up Bunker Lane, here, to Sylvester, and then to Fisk. And there's a gravity manhole here in Fisk, at which point the existing Natick sewer system runs gravity all the way down here, the rest of the way to the existing MWRA interceptor. So this is also about a 3/4 of a mile run of sewer, and because of the topography of the land, it would be a force main. So the sewer would be pumped from the project site via a force main, which is just a pipe, but it's a pipe that the sewage will get pumped through, and it will get pumped into that gravity manhole, at which point it would flow by gravity, not pumped, to the MWRA interceptor.
Just a question here.
Yes.
We're going to connect to the MWRA system. Do we have to, A, become members of the MWRA, pay all the membership fees and all that kind of stuff? And B, do we have to have an agreement with the MWRA directly with the town of Sherborn?
If I may, I think the exact logistics and legal process of what needs to happen is still under review and discussion. So I don't know if I can answer exactly your question, but MWRA definitely needs to be a party to our agreements, the agreements between Natick and Sherborn. And MWRA needs to review everything and be comfortable with everything, and they need to be a party to certain agreements.
Just, I know they have this philosophy that if you're going to use their system, you got to contribute to all the infrastructure investment that they've made over the last 50 years. So there's a big cash payment that's necessary to become part of the MWRA system.
Yeah,
I just want to be sure nobody's looking to Sherborn to pay a big cash amount.
Sure. We had met with them, and they had given us some projected fees and what it would take. And I'm not sure that I came up, but we'll certainly look into that further, because we wouldn't want that either.
I had a discussion about 2 years ago with somebody with Natick about exactly this topic as it concerns over General Chemical. And they said that this is one person's opinion, but their opinion was that the intermunicipal agreement would be between the town of Sherborn and the town of Natick. And that we would not, I asked that very specific question, would we be forced to join MWRA? Their opinion was it wasn't, but this was not an MWRA person, this was somebody from Natick Sewer, so. But
That's the question I'm looking for, but.
right.
He's saying that MWRA has to be, but you're saying Natick is saying they don't have to be.
Yeah.
I would prefer if we're not involved with the MWRA.
On that note, my big question is, I assume the costs of all these connections is going to be borne by the developer, and it's not going to cost the town of Sherborn anything to connect to these.
That's fair. And just so we're clear, I don't have all the answers tonight. I mean, we've met with Framingham, we've met with the MWRA, and we're meeting with you folks here, tonight for the first time. So I think those are great questions, and we will definitely get the answers to those. But I don't know the exact whose agreements are with what and how that all works yet.
I have, first of all, I want to commend Pulte, because when we met last time, a couple months ago, we identified the intermunicipal. Having a public water and public sewer was something we were extraordinarily interested in. The town has been very concerned and been monitoring the General Chemical site, and both the Select Board and the Board of Health. And there was real concerns about drawing a plume down from the site. So if these projects can use Framingham Town water and Natick sewer, I think that's particularly the water, that's a win-win-win-win to the Sherborn residents, town of Framingham. Natick has a couple of wells that are down in this area. There's a backup MWRA aqueduct also in between this site and the General Chemical site. So I think we expressed our very clear opinion to Reed and to Mark last time that these connections were, we thought, a very, very good idea. I'm guessing the planning board and Board of Health have the same opinion, but kudos for listening. And the vehicle is going to be an intermunicipal agreement that I can only speak individually as one of 5 members, but I think the concept is a very, very good idea.
I have one question for Pulte or the engineer, whoever. Is pretty much everything you need from the select board is relative to the IMA? Is there anything else you need either for a friendly 40B or anything else? Or is all the votes and all the opinions you need basically relative to the IMA and for utilities? Well, I guess what else do you need from the select board? It's kind of summarizing.
Well, we definitely need the select board's support and the willingness to enter into all of the agreements regarding water and sewer, whatever those ultimately end up being. And then as part of Coolidge Crossing being a friendly 40B, I would imagine that the select board would be very involved in that process, even though the permit is granted through the ZBA. The apartment developer would want the support of the select board, and once we have that partner in place, I would imagine we'd be in here talking about these projects again and asking for your support of what they're presenting as well.
So let's go to the chair. Obviously, AMA and IMA, I can't be involved with.
I'm sure, yeah,
I don't know
no,
if
I
you want me to
understand
not
that.
sit up here or sit.
Oh, no, that's, I mean,
Who's the water and sewer consultant for the town of Framingham?
Beta?
It's Beta.
Beta Group.
And who is the Framingham peer reviewer?
The Framingham period. Well, the Beta is, so we've been dealing with Jim Barsante, Framingham DPW, and we've been dealing with Bob Mackey, who's a gentleman with Beta who is being engaged to to peer review on behalf of the city of Framingham. Did that answer your question, John?
Thank you.
I know that you haven't identified the partner that you're going to use for the apartments, but I think what's very important and what the reason, primarily my personal view, the reason this got approved was because of the number of rentals and that it's going to put us into our 10% for affordable housing. So I think it's important that we know that, I mean, I wouldn't want to see the 67 units moving forward without the rental apartments. And I think that's a very important piece that we need to be aware of.
We came here tonight with some really exciting news. So we went to the planning board back in June and we presented our Meadowbrook Commons project, and for the most part it was well received. And we heard a lot of comments, a lot of good input, but we heard two really major comments. One was concerns about the well, the public well that we had presented, and we are really excited to talk more about the chance to extend the City of Framingham water tonight. So that was great news, and ultimately the agreements and how it all works out, we're a long way from that. There's a lot of details and work that goes into that, and we're ready to do that. And then the second is that we didn't talk much about the 40B and the rental apartment community that the town was expecting or was excited about. And tonight, we've included it in our presentation, but we're just not quite there yet. We had two really exciting pieces of information. One we're discussing, and two we're kind of, we're close, but we didn't get quite there yet for this meeting.
How many folks have you been in discussions with, developers for the apartment buildings? I know you can't identify who it is.
Yeah.
And it sounds like from what you said, you're pretty far along. You think you're pretty close.
Yeah.
How many folks have you talked to about?
A few.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how far along? Are you negotiating an agreement?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that'll be imminent. Sure.
So I just want to underscore what George Morrill said. A rental unit project counts 100% towards the shy list. Where are we on our shy list? What number are we at?
2.34.
2.34%? Yikes. So
Is that 10%?
we have to get to 10%, but a rental unit project, the whole thing counts, regardless of what's affordable and what's not affordable. And the fear that I would have, and I've seen happen in other communities, I work for a number of communities, is that what starts out as a rental project, someone comes in and says, it's not really affordable, I can't do it, I don't have the money to do it, can we convert it to a home ownership project? And if that happened here, that changes the whole dynamics tremendously, because the over 55 is only going to give us 7 units towards our shy list. We need over 55 housing. Don't take that as being critical of over 55. It only gives us 7 towards the shy list, 7 units. Whereas the other project, it's 100%, all goes to the shy. So they really have to be, as George had said, he made an excellent point, they have to be locked in. And I would caution the board about going too far down the road with just getting this project going without our locking in the other projects so that they're truly married together and we don't give up our leverage. And that goes back to the point that Eric made when he said, what other opportunities does the Board of Selectmen have to deal with this? And based on the answer that you gave to Eric, it seems like this really is our best opportunity to tie these projects together and nail down what the planning board was trying to accomplish and what I think town meeting was trying to accomplish. Making sure that both projects go forward.
Yeah, we talked about that when we met a couple of months ago. There was a discussion about using town water only for the condos, not the apartments. We didn't think that was a good idea. Thought the town of Framingham would be receptive to both because the same issue. In fact, the usage is greater for the apartments than it is for the condos, so it's an even greater point. So it's not a new. I think both the planning board and this board have been very concerned that, as Mark properly put it, it's a very high priority for us to get the apartment project going, approved, and permitted so that we can hit our 10% SHI.
I have a question probably for you, Paul. On an IMA, just because I'm not familiar with it, can we limit, like when say we're making an agreement with Framingham or Natick, can we limit it only to this site? Can we be very exclusive as to who can use the water and sewer?
That was a point I was going to bring up, and I was going to phrase it differently. I was going to ask the board, before we take a position on this, to request town council for a formal opinion on that. The concern is that if we agree to use the IMA approach, we may open up the whole of North Sherborn to becoming a solid Waltham, if you will. We definitely, nothing against Waltham.
Excuse me while I kick my fellow board member.
A little late. But the point is that I think George is making an excellent point. We had these projects before us, but we don't want to have unintended consequences. That by simply agreeing to this, we suddenly open the door to all kinds of other things coming in that were unanticipated and weren't before us. So the opinion from town council is the place to start.
And my assumption is the water being currently supplied to the Sunshine Dairy Apartments, that's the end of it. It's never been extended beyond that. But
from my understanding, part of that property is in Framingham, and that's the reason that there isn't even an IMA for that property, because part of the property is in Framingham.
Oh, I thought there was an IMA.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
So there is no IMA in place for it, okay.
Go ahead, John.
I think Paul's concerns are good. But I also want to keep in mind what was discussed at the planning board meeting, which is that that this also having water from Framingham and the necessary ability to treat the sewer also is really important to Framingham, Natick, and Sherborn, and the state because of general chemistry. So limiting it just to this site, to this development project on Coolidge, we also want to make sure we're providing potential protection. We're providing protection for folks that live on I know I'm stating the obvious, but on Kendall, Coolidge, Meadowbrook, in that area, if they need to be connected, as well as maybe people from Natick, in order to have protection from general chemical, we want to leave that capacity and capability available.
That's the question, again, for town council is, can we do this in a way that locks it to these two, but provides the opportunity, should the need arise, to protect others? Yeah, if that can be done, that becomes ideal. And if we can't do it, then what part of that we can't do? Or is there some other way that we could do this that would accomplish that? But it's an important point that these aren't the only people who might be affected by general chemical.
Yeah, and if I can, another aspect which you've already talked about is by getting to our 10% SHI goals, the combined projects get us to that goal for the 2030 census and beyond. That's providing a great deal of protection so that we don't get unwanted development. That's part of the protection. Zoning, other things, the capacity of the system, other things that can be done. But one of the protections is getting to that SHI goal in a way that then positions Sherborn to stay over that forever. And that's part of the protection.
I have a question for the planning board. Part of the public record is going to be a letter to this board from the planning board dated July 24th, 2019. And in it, the planning board suggests that the use of the off-site utilities, this is something that I know John and Mary Ann have been saying for a good while, is that using off-site utility, water and sewer allows more flexibility in the siding of the apartments. Do you have any sense of where, thanks for putting up that, right now it's pretty close to Coolidge Street. Is it a matter of further setback from Coolidge? Is that what you're envisioning as a possibility?
Yeah. The 40B apartment designs, the villages, was designed with the constraint of having a wastewater treatment plant partway into the 84 Coolidge site and well field beyond that. With those constraints removed, then it should allow positioning of the building to more favorable position of the building. So I can't tell you looking at this, but it looks like there's opportunity to position the buildings or configure them so that they're maybe more.
I think it's also preliminary to talk about it until you have the partner that's actually going to develop this, because they may want to make changes that make sense to them as an apartment developer that could change a lot of things. So until we can talk to them.
That's valid, but John's point is also good because this frees up area that would have been the septic and sewage treatment area that now could accommodate possibly multiple smaller apartment buildings as DHCD or mass housing or whoever made the comment on the original proposal said would be preferable, if I recall correctly.
And then, if I can, just
go ahead.
one other aspect that was mentioned at the planning board meeting was that having that space available may also allow a change in the total number that would, again, get us to 2030 and beyond. So it might be an opportunity to aesthetically make some improvements, but also add some units that would all be counted towards our SHI goals and really get us to a long-term 10%.
George?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I suggest that we open it up to the public? I know it's
Well,
not a public hearing.
I was just about to do that. I wanted to say if anybody else had any questions.
I had one more question, maybe a question for Reed. What's the current price point for the 1,600 to 2,400 square foot? What are you projecting this at this point?
Honestly, I don't really have, any numbers that I could share tonight, just because of the timing and apparently will be in pace with the market, whatever.
200,000?
Well, the affordables.
You got the first one.
$1.5 million, yeah.
Sold.
But, that's, unfortunately, I don't really have it tonight.
Do I have any other questions or comments? Matt?
Thanks, George. Matt Allaire. I'm a resident, but I'm also counsel for the Paddocks who live at 86 Coolidge, which, based on that map right there, it appears as though there's a parking lot in their backyard. I know that Trask had some conversations with Paddocks about potentially purchasing their property that did not go very far. I've spoken with Mr. Bluton, I at least sent him an email, but I'd just like to point out to the board that I myself, as a resident and as their attorneys, are very concerned about the fact that one of our residents is basically having this project go into their backyard. And I'm hoping that we can continue on with these conversations, and we certainly intend to try to do that. But that's a concern that I think we should all be at least aware of.
I think you should stay in touch too when the next time we have a meeting, when they bring the apartment developer, because I think their site is next to the apartment site and not so much next to their.
Understood that they're calling themselves partners. Which
Right, exactly, yeah.
All sorts of different things.
No.
But agreed, thanks, George.
Yep. Anyone else? Daryl? I was hoping you'd have something to say.
Not so much Board of Health issue, except that I wanted to relay information I heard at a meeting of Board of Health representatives in Massachusetts, Connecticut, and maybe Rhode Island, but it's not uncommon in their experience for projects to start out as EA and then they don't survive as EA and they convert to whatever you call it. So I just offer that as it's something, again, not uncommon. They were naming various instances of when that's taken place, and that may affect whatever kind of agreement you have to set up front, if that's an important factor.
Do you have a thought on, I mean, the idea of the municipal utilities versus with the general, I know you're familiar with the general chemical thing, I assume
No,
that
I
you would
would
be
say-
pleased to see that rather than wells and,
Yes, that would be, and having both the water and sewer
Right.
is important.
The Board of Health is
Otherwise,
expressly
we're
concerned about an uneven,
right. Wells without the recharge
Right.
rate would be the
Right.
real, would be the biggest problem.
Yep.
Yes, well, they would both be a problem because that's a lot of wastewater to put in.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? I think from the board's perspective, I would think we'd want to delay saying whether we support an IMA until we have an idea of the apartment. I think the apartments are a big piece of this.
Yes, but also, I'd like to request a formal written opinion that we can rely on for years to come that says that we can do this exactly as represented. We can okay connections for these particular destinations with the option of adding to it later as needed, but that would be effective and it's legal and will stand up.
Okay.
So that if somebody, a 40B developer or any of these preferred things like detox centers or nursing homes or any of those facilities show up, we don't want them to take all the water away from what we're trying to do here or require extensions, all of that.
So can you request an opinion from Darren on that? Thank you.
I agree with you both.
Yeah, I think
we
we
want a
definitely-
formal opinion of council. We won't be spending some time on this because I know Paul's very concerned about developers from Waltham coming in.
Go, Jeff, you had a question?
Yeah, my question is, I don't know if you're looking at it, but I'm wondering if the consideration of going with one town, in other words, getting the water from Natick and the sewer from Natick, because then you're only negotiating one municipal agreement, and you're also possibly, depending on the route of the water, I don't know if it's the same excavation or if they're, I know you have to source the water from one place and maybe the sewer has to go to a different place, but I'd like to see if it's at least something that we want to evaluate, looking at having one town supply both water and sewer.
Go ahead.
I can answer that. So we had similar thoughts to you, and honestly, our first approach was to speak with Natick about having Natick supply both water and sewer. It became very apparent to us and was told to us that sewer was a possibility. It's MWRA. There was capacity. They'd like to speak further. Water is town water as opposed to City of Framingham, which is MWRA water. The town of Natick has town of Natick wells, and it was not available to us. They were not interested. We were speaking with the DPW staff, and that's why we ended up going to the City of Framingham and speaking with them, and they were receptive and interested and cooperative, and that's how we progressed. But we did approach Natick for both, and sewer was a go, and water was a no-go.
And what about the converse? What about having sewer go to Framingham as well as water?
Yeah, I mean, we could have those discussions with Framingham, but Natick sewer is next to the projects, and we had spoken to Natick, and it was
right there. Yeah.
something that seemed like it was going to work, and so that's the way we were proceeding.
Eric, what's this Framingham sewer to the side? Do you know?
Yes.
Will you tell us?
I'm sure it's readily available information.
So could I suggest that we recess this hearing, or It's
on
not
the
a hearing.
hearing, so.
Or
We'll put you on the agenda again when you have an agreement with an apartment developer, and we've had a chance to have our attorney, our town council draft an opinion.
yes.
But I think the other takeaway though is you all listened last time to our concerns, planning board's concerns and the board of health concerns, so they're details, but.
Just a couple of things. One is, I think it's also obvious, but town council's opinion might be, it's phrased something like it's consistent with the housing production plan, as opposed to saying Walter. But just consistent with the housing production plan, I think is a good way to, we certainly established our housing goals. So that's a good reference, I think. The other thing is, it occurred to me, Darrell's very good point about the permanency of EA, of a preliminary development plan, a project that gets built, if it gets built, that's a zoning, that design, the preliminary development plan is in the zoning now. So in order to change anything, to take it out of EA or something like that, it can't just be taken out. It has to go back to the town. It can only be approved, as with any other zoning change, with 2/3 vote.
Or they can do a 40B.
Or they could do a 40B, correct.
That's why I think our leverage point, if I can speak without being too clear, because I don't want to frighten anybody, but I think our leverage point is now. And so all these issues, that there won't be a 40B there, they won't convert, they won't get what they need for a 300-unit project, and then flip it to a 300-unit project, all that kind of stuff. This is our real leverage point now. So I think in combination of what George had brought up and the answer to Eric's question about what other leverage points there might be, it seems like the best time to accomplish what you want to accomplish is to take advantage of this moment, if you will.
Yes, go ahead, Mary.
Along those same lines, just to follow what Paul said, as we speak, I'm a little concerned about the sequence. I think it's almost right that you guys come back with a 40B developer that's on board and willing to build the rental that we want. But it also would be nice for the town to have some input. I don't know how that would exactly play out, but input into the number of units we need and the town's needs to get to 10%, because a 40B can be a small one or a large one.
Mm-hmm.
It can be any number of things, and we need to make sure it fulfills our needs.
And that's, I think, what's important about talking to the apartment developer. Go ahead.
Yeah, if I could just mention one more thing. So, when discussing the project, Coolidge Crossing, with our apartment partners' prospective options, and now going from the public water supply to the City of Framingham Water, the cost and the due diligence of bringing the water from Framingham is a big item. And one of the things that we're trying to do, and Mark Camo is here tonight in case the board had any questions, is we need to understand what's in the road along Kendall and along Coolidge, which is pretty much the direction, location of the water line extension, right? So what we'd like to do, what we've spoke to Sean about, I know he's here, is to do some probes along Coolidge and Kendall in the location of the proposed water line so that we can get an estimate on the cost of bringing the water in. And that item is sort of, I wouldn't say holding up our discussions with the apartment buildings, but it's certainly it's a big topic of, well, how much is it going to cost? And we say, well, we don't really know, but it could be this or it could be this, but what we really need to do is do a little bit of soil investigation, because it has a huge impact. And I know Mark Camo has been talking with Sean, who's here tonight, and I just wanted to mention that because that's the ability for us to do that, the permission to work in your roads to do that testing is really important, I think, to moving forward.
Sean, what do you think about that?
What's up?
What do you think about them doing some testing along the roads too?
Well, I'm not excited about coring a bunch of holes in Kendall. It's a pretty nice new road. Mark did have it dig safe. I don't think they put any marks in it yet. We know the gas line goes up one side of Coolidge and shoots up Kendall and Framingham. I think we can do a fair amount of the cores off the road. The water main won't go off the road, but it should indicate. I know Eric has some concerns about coring the road, I'm sure. It's somewhat of a necessary evil. They'll have to get approval, at least for me, but I wouldn't do it without the board's support to do that. It's going to be a hole every 20 feet from Coolidge to Framingham Town. I think it's a 2-inch hole, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a 2-inch hole. It's probably do 25 feet, you know, and then we might, if there's obstructions overhead, we might push it to 30 feet or something like that. But it's a small hole, and work out how we fill it. We'll do as many as we can just off the edge of the pavement. It's just a physical issue about the mast of the machine as it goes up, you know, not hitting electrical lines, and, you know, making sure we don't hit gas lines. We don't like to hit them at all. So the hole itself is a couple of inches, and we're just going down about 6 feet. It's because the water line's about 4 feet down.
I mean, how does the rest of the board feel about them getting started, at least testing on that, just so?
But what I hear them saying is that they can't close the deal with the apartments.
Right.
Until they have this information. So if we said no, then they're not going to be able to close the deal with the apartments. And if they can't close the deal with the apartments, we would be in an unknown situation, a free fall situation.
So I think if they could work with, I'm okay with it if Sean can work with them and be as undisruptive as possible, then I would be okay with it.
I'm not in favor of it. We have to have a plan to review. I would like to see a plan of how many test bores will be and where they'll be located. I'm not going to vote in favor of anything blindly.
So why don't we hold that issue too and ask for
I
some...
don't know, if they, like you just said though, Paul, I mean, if they want to make a deal with an apartment, I disagree with Jeff. I think we've tested on the side of roads. I mean, we do a lot of things along the side of the road, and it's not like we're tearing the whole road up or anything like that. I think if Sean could make it work, then we could progress this project forward that was approved almost 2 years ago.
There will be some holes in the road.
I won't support it without a plan that we're looking at.
What plan are you looking at? What plan?
I want to know how and where all the test borings are going to be. This could be a huge thing on people driving and doing test borings on the road also. Once people see that and get out next door Sherborn, it's going to be a big topic. So it's not just 2-inch holes.
How many borings are we talking about?
Well, if you do them every 25 feet, it could be up to about 600.
Okay, so
600 bores?
600 holes. So you have 3/4 of a mile, you do it every 25 feet.
On the side of the road or in the road?
Well, we're going to do as many as we can off the pavement, but a good number of them, because you got a lot of trees, you got power lines, you know, will probably be in the road.
Daryl?
I would say for any firm that's familiar with doing that kind of work, putting together a plan is not a big ask. It should be well within their abilities. And if it's not, then they're not the right firm. So.
Right.
I share your view though, George, that I'm very concerned about the apartment building. I agree with the planning board's view that was a major part. This project got supported by 87% of the voters at a special town meeting.
I'm not questioning the project.
Well,
I'm just
so-
not going to approve it without a plan.
And the big part of it is the apartments, so
I understand that you want to see the plan, but I would defer to Sean to approving a plan that's right for the town. I would give the authority for Sean to move forward with the testing if Sean thinks it's appropriate, as our DPW director.
yeah, I agree with that.
Well, just
David has a, can I have David?
I just wanted to ask Mark, you said 600, but wouldn't it be more like 250 on the roads and then the rest of it would be on the property?
Yeah, no, 600 beyond the road. Now, the property,
It's every
we're not counting
25
those
feet.
because it's, that's private ground. We can go out there.
How many feet in a mile?
5,280.
So divide that by
I was figuring about
25.
6,000 running feet. So, we can do one every 25 feet. He's doing 181.
Let me get out the calculator.
Get on board, Ryan.
I just think,
I think it's 640. Let's see if I'm right.
I think that's like 3 times.
We're gonna miss a few though.
Well, so 6,000 divided by 25.
I don't see the point, I don't see the point in this discussion right now, okay? From my point of view, I'm talking right now. From my,
Jeff, they were talking before. You don't have
I don't need to sit here where we argue about numbers and 20
Jeff,
feet.
just
No, I'm not, George.
And then
I'm not,
take
George.
it. Jeff. Okay. If you want to speak over them, go ahead.
I'm going to.
Okay.
The point is simply this, I don't see developing this plan taking along, as Daryl just aptly pointed out, it doesn't delay the apartment project by more than a week or two, I would think. If we have a plan and we're meeting this 5th of September, we could look at it then. I don't see this, I don't buy the argument this holds up the apartment negotiations at all.
The 5th of September is for a boring only
I know
meeting.
what it is.
So the 12th would be the next meeting that we have. My proposal is that they develop a plan and I give Sean authority to move forward with it if it's when it's ready. Go ahead.
Yeah, I respect Sean's opinion on this more than mine or yours or anyone else sitting up here. I didn't look at you, Eric.
I think my position is going to be that I'm going to defer to Jeff on this. I think we're a collegial board. Jeff seems to make sense. He cares to see this plan. I think the point is right that it can be done within a fairly short time, a couple of weeks. So if necessary, I'm willing to do even a special meeting so there's not a delay in this thing. But I'd rather us be moving forward more collegially rather than having a board member feeling left out of the process. I just think it's just better that way.
Do you have a thought on it?
Yes.
Can you share?
No.
You're gonna stay out of this? Okay. I think we'll just then, it's kind of split and defer to you guys that, why don't we develop the plan and put you on the agenda for our September 12th meeting so we can review the plan, and Sean, I hope you can be there so I can listen to what you recommend, because I think that's what.
Yeah, whatever plan gets developed, I want Sean to have a shot at it.
Yep.
Because I value your opinion on this more than ours.
All right, I think, does anyone else have anything else on Meadowbrook Common? If not, then we'll move on to the next agenda item with the consideration of appointments.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Thanks for coming in. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you very much.
Our first appointment, or I guess I'll take a nomination, should we do it separately, I guess, for Nicole Essler LaFortin for the Disability Advisory Committee for a term to expire on June 15th, 2022.
I'll second that.
All in favor? And for the Historic District Commission and Historical Commission, James Guarino for a term to expire June 15th, 2022. Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor? Great. Now moving on to routine business. Finance Director report.
Okay, a couple things before we have the reserve fund transfer. I just wanted to give you an update on what's going on with quarterly billing, because I know it's a hot topic. And I just want to let you know that we do have a meeting scheduled for September 11th. Nancy Hess, Wendy Alassi, Heidi, and myself and David will be at that meeting. They're going to share with us what Vadar can do for us. And the ultimate goal is to move off of Point, move on to move on to the Vadar property tax software, which is a fully integrated system with a well-established interface with what the assessor's office uses, which is Patriot. And the conversion is going to provide us with a single entry as of, for the tax and financial platform is integrated. So right now, we are doing double data entry. We're doing data entry in the collector's office, and then we're turning around and doing the entry again in the finance department. So this is going to eliminate double data entry. It's going to save hours on an annual basis. So we're really looking forward to that. The other thing is we're looking at the budget module that VADAR has to offer. We now have 2 years of actual data, 3 years of budget information, so it's a really good time to take a look at their budget system. We've apparently been using the system for years and years and years, which is just spreadsheet driven, and now we have the opportunity to take a look at our general ledger, and they have a module. They're going to be coming out and sharing that with us, so very excited about rolling that out. Well overdue. Great opportunity.
Question on that, Sharon.
Yes.
The school systems won't be on that, or will they?
No,
So
no.
that will still be separate.
Yeah, they still have their own, yeah.
Is the town of Dover using that system?
Yes, they are.
That's my recollection. That
Yes,
they were.
they,
Yeah.
and actually Heidi said that at the training session she was at this week, she sat next to the treasurer from Dover, and they said, and they've just recently migrated to VADAR, and they like it a lot. So that was good to hear as well, so.
Is their collector treasurer a new?
Yes, I believe
They
so.
have a new town administrator as well.
Yeah, I
think
believe
their
so.
collector treasurer is fairly new as well.
I believe so. And the DOR is coming in on next Wednesday to go over all my schedules for the tax recap. So lots of things moving, so exciting.
And you had a reserve fund transfer request?
Yes.
For tonight?
Yes, we do. And Rick's
Want
gonna,
Rick to present it, or-
Rick will,
You can present, it's pretty basic.
okay.
We'd rather hear from you.
So it's the reserve fund transfer. It has to do with the department staffing study for the police department. It was talked about this past year, an advisory was 100% for it, and I guess we had some issues with the first consultants.
Correct.
But we actually just met today with the consultant, and they asked all the right questions. I was really impressed. Yeah, I think it's going to be, it's a great opportunity. I mean, obviously, our overtime expenses are so huge.
You and I have talked about this many times, Rick, about
Correct.
the idea of having a consultant review the staffing levels, and hopefully this
Right.
would save the town a lot of money on overtime.
And Rick, you're supportive of this, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I'm just asking the obvious question.
I guess my only question is, and it's more for you, Jeff, why wasn't this in the budget?
I thought this was in the budget, to be
August-
honest with
It's
you.
August, and we're already asking for a reserve fund transfer, that's.
I thought it was in your police budget last year. I wasn't the person that follows police.
No.
Who's the advisory person, Steven?
Stevens.
Steven Size.
Yes.
Brendan, and Brendan Daly, maybe?
No,
Pete Galatano?
female,
Drew?
Jane?
Drew?
Jane.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought it wasn't, I actually thought the study had already been started, so. My
No.
biggest concern is that, will this, I don't know what the timing is, I'd love to have the budget for next year be based on this.
We talked about that with the consultant, and thank you for asking that, Jeff. We spoke about that with the consultant today, and it will fall just in line with.
It's feasible to
Yeah,
do
so-
that?
Yes.
Yeah, time-wise.
That's the biggest concern.
They've got like a 16-week window to get it done.
Yeah,
And give us the recommendation,
Right,
so
that we
it's,
can get it in before. budget
Absolutely.
season,
Correct.
Budget season, which is
That-
good.
that's
I
the
didn't
goal.
want to go, as I said to you last year, I don't want to go another year
yeah.
not
Neither do I.
not reviewing this, and I know you don't either. So.
Yeah.
Neither do my personnel.
Yes.
My personnel.
Right.
So could I move approval?
Yes.
So,
All right, all those in favor? There you go.
Has it been approved by advisory already?
Probably not, I don't think.
They need to,
Yeah, they need to. They're actually having a
they
meeting.
typically don't until we do.
Yeah.
is that right?
Yeah.
I mean, but they want, I mean, they're 100% for
Yeah, I
it.
think-
Yeah.
typically though, I think it does come to select board. right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're for it, all for it.
Yeah, what was the, I always ask this question, what's the reserve fund this year?
I knew you were gonna say that. It's $300,000.
$300,000, okay.
So this
now-
would bring it down to 275, 200.
She knows the question I'm gonna ask you.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Anything else, Sharon, or?
No, just excited about all these great new changes.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Town administrator report, do you have the sustainability coordinator?
Yeah, at the last meeting, I said that I would bring back job descriptions to start from. So basically, in your book, you have the original job description submitted by the citizen petition group.
When did they submit that?
I think it's mostly pulled right out of the article, and then they followed up with it after it had passed with a proposed job description. So I think it's months ago.
My concern or my objection to both is that it doesn't reflect the appropriation by the state.
No.
And so their job description, I think, was prepared before there was this appropriation. And there's no reference in that job description, nor in the other job description for any coordination with Holliston. And I know that the board may be of different views on this, but my view is that the legislation, copy of which you provided to us, makes it clear that this is it's a town of Sherborn position that's going to be shared with Holliston, and it's $50,000. And it just seems...
Did this amendment pass? There was an amendment to expand that to 80,000.
Yeah, I know, I was just going to ask that.
It's whatever the most recent one at the top of the page is, that's what lasts, that's what.
That's 50, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So, just turning our back on $50,000, last time we discussed this, we thought this was going to be a Holliston position, and we'd get marginal services, but it's going to be a Sherborn position. So,
Can I explain?
Yeah, go ahead.
We're not turning our back on the money. I mean, I've been still talking to Holliston. The job descriptions are done for posterity's sake. We don't usually put funding in the job descriptions. So the funding would be controlled through an IMA with Holliston.
it's not the funding that's the issue for me, it's that the job descriptions doesn't say that they will be coordinating with Holliston, so
Because that
either case, I would make the amendment, an amendment to either one that would say, and is also responsible for assisting Holliston or any other community with whom
I think it
the town
does.
has
It doesn't say it specifically like that, but it is open to. Basically, the IMA is controlling.
And I think what we requested last time as a board was a description, a job description for the town of Sherborn. And then if it works to share with Holliston, then we would go that direction. But we wanted to get a job description for the town, what we want in the town of Sherborn. And I don't think this first one is it, because this is their language that really kind of pigeonholes it. I think this was a concern we talked about back when they presented it to us. We don't want it to be a pigeonholed position that only works on these items that they talk in here, and there's no mention of DPW or other boards or other opportunities to get grants. It's very specific.
One thing I should point out is developing your own job description, going out to hiring and going through that process is much different than implementing the other option of adjusting an existing job description. That could be done tomorrow. I mean, that could be implemented tomorrow.
Okay, I can ask a couple questions. This job description of 35 hours per week, is it intended to be shared with Holliston? Is that its intent? Forgetting what it says, is that?
For posterity, no.
Okay.
This one's not for, this is an.
This is the planning board.
This is a town plan, this is a revision of the town planner to include the sustainability job.
Right, because the
That's what you put.
planner's doing many of the things already.
Okay.
Yeah.
Second question is, have the conversations with Holliston progressed at all? Like, is the intent there? Are they still like, Sherborn gets 25%, we get 75%?
No, we kind of went back and forth on that, and it's not, that percentage doesn't really matter if all the money's coming to Sherborn to pay for the services that this position would give Holliston.
Or the hours.
So
You
whether
can
it's
say money or
50,
hours.
75, 25, the money still all paying the position here.
But would the hours then be 25.75? You know, and the hours are money. I understand the money pays for this person. Is the
Right.
current conversation that the hours would be 25.75?
I think we had said that it was 2 or 3 hours a week, what it would average, of time that the Sherborn position would spend doing Holliston work. So it's not.
Maybe I'm not. I guess here's my bottom line of everything. If we do a shared position, let's say 35-hour full-time position, that Sherborn at least gets that person half time, half money, however you want to do it. It's kind of semantics to some degree. If we don't share with Holliston, I go back to my original proposal, is that we do the max hours that does not give benefits, because we are still so behind in our OPEB and retirement and benefits there, that I at least want to give that a shot before we go advertise a 35-hour-a-week full-time employee just for Sherborn. So at least that's where I still stand, and I have from the very beginning when this thing was conceived, even before town meeting.
I'm with you on that.
If you go over 19.
Yeah, whatever.
It's gonna be
Whatever.
tricky.
And then if you can't fill it, then you try the next one. But I think you have to try there first. I just can't put any more burden onto our retirement and benefits.
I think we're all in agreement on that.
Yeah.
But I think the vision that the sponsors had for this was that they would be working on a grant application that would benefit both communities. Like the whole purpose behind the legislation is to encourage regionalization. And so if they're going to do a grant application, you ought to do one that has both communities benefiting from it in collaborative ways. So that the person, it wouldn't be a question of counting how many hours did they spend on the Sherborn part of the application, how many hours did they spend on the Holliston, and have them have two separate time cards. The idea is they're writing a grant application that's going to provide a grant to both communities to accomplish a meaningful purpose. And it's that collaboration that got us the funding. The legislature wants to encourage regionalization. So at least in year one, why don't we take the $50,000, use it, and get started with something, and then if we can't get a second year of funding, then we face the difficult question of doing things separately. And if we go separate, is it going to be 19 hours or 35? I think 19 hours is what makes sense to do it. I agree with what Eric said on that.
Well, particularly if initially the town of Holliston is thinking of 2 to 3 hours of Holliston only work. I agree with you about the grants that benefit both towns and the focus on regionalization, but a little bit of a disconnect between the proposed 75-25 split that we're talking about and given where the town of Holliston is, and only looking for 2 to 3 hours a week.
Well, the original discussion is they were trying to fund their own position. And we were funding a position.
I want to go back to, I know you're focused on the state legislation part. What's more important to me is what we passed at town meeting, to hire a sustainability coordinator. But now we're kind of backing into it, well, this is what the state's telling us to do, so this is what we have to do. I don't agree with that. I think we need to go back and say, we voted as a town to hire a sustainability coordinator. What is the best for Sherborn? Hopefully this the money that they have in this legislation will help pay for that. But I think we need to focus on what's best for Sherborn, not what the state's telling us to do.
Well, let me just add to that, if I could, that originally when this was just a concept, the legislation was just a concept, it was the money was going to go to Holliston that was going to serve Holliston and Sherborn. Holliston was the bigger community, and Representative Dyke was representing Holliston, and so on and so on. And so Holliston could take the position that this was going to be a Holliston position. But now if you look at the legislation that was actually adopted, it's a Sherborn position. So town meeting voted to create a Sherborn position. This is funding a Sherborn position. The question only is that Sherborn position going to be limited to only working on Sherborn things, or can they also assist Holliston if they're allowed to assist? And if the person's doing research about available grants, so they're going through a booklet on, here's 30 pages of available grants, is that really working for Sherborn? Is that working for Holliston? Basically, when you're looking to see what's out there, you're supporting both communities.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that we could easily meet the requirement to support Holliston here then you get $50,000 and benefit the taxpayers. So
I just think, we need to go to the job description, David, because the one that they wrote, I don't like that one. I think that's.
Oh, it's a benefited position too, I think.
Yeah, and it's not 20, I mean, if we're gonna do 20 hours, why wouldn't you do 19?
Yeah.
That's just, I mean, no, that's.
I just wanna.
There. I also, like I said, I think it's very specific to
Environmental.
Which it should, I mean, I know that's the focus, but I think there's gotta be room there, kind of some of the language you used in the revision to the town planner description, where they're also working with DPW, and they're also working with our other departments to write grants.
And other towns.
Right. Yeah, and, yeah.
I want to add to Paul's point, if you don't mind, Paul. I think I agree wholeheartedly with Paul on that in another way, which is I think it could cause the grants to be more successful, because if the granting organization sees that it's a proposal that's going to benefit two communities, they might view that more favorably in our odds of receiving the grant, so that it's not just, people see Sherborn and they, think, high income housing, sort of elitist town. If they see it's a sort of a more democratic approach and it's benefiting two towns, I think it could help us win grants.
If the grant application is supported by both towns,
yes,
yeah, it definitely gives it a leg up.
That's a good point.
So,
and also, if we are successful, it may extend the state funding too.
Yes.
So that's a great point.
I want to also ask you a question, David, about what you provided in here with revising the town planner's description by increasing his, to include these descriptions. I mean, that's an interesting idea that when we have a town planner, is it something that Gino's interested in, or would this be a new job that would be posted, or kind of what is the?
It's not a new job that's posted, it's amending the current duties, breaking them out. He's doing some of the things already, and it's an expansion of the planner duties.
And is he interested in this, do you think? Have you talked to him about this? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
And I would have done it 2 weeks after town meeting, but these things take time. If it was up to me, that's what I would have implemented like that.
And could we somehow incorporate into, if this is, I don't know what the rest of the board thinks about this idea of kind of incorporating it into Gino's job description, but can we also, or the town planner, not always obviously going to be Gino, but can we incorporate in some language that would make it qualify for the money from the state?
That was my point.
Well, I'm saying the IMA between the two towns is an agreement on what to do with that money.
Okay.
So, I mean, if you want to put it in the job description, it's not going to hurt. It's just someday we'll have to take it out if we're not doing that.
Have you talked to the planning board or the town planner? Have you shown them this?
I believe Gino did. Yeah, this is his job description before amending.
Right, I mean, with the additions, have you gone over those?
Gino gave it to me. I think he talked to the chair.
Okay.
To get support before he gave me an amended draft. And then I made a few changes.
And you may want to actually change the title. The enabling legislation refers to the creation of a sustainability coordinator position. So limiting it to the job title of town planner, you may want to expand it to include sustainability coordinator in the job title.
Excellent idea.
I think that's important, because I was wondering, the town technically thinks they voted for it. So even though I supported Gino completely, we want to show that we're.
Yeah, when I was on the planning board, Gino was good at getting grants.
No, I know,
Yeah.
I know.
The intent is that he will be the sustainability
Yeah.
coordinator, and it could be made more clear.
And so how many hours does he work now? Ballpark?
I think it's 23.
So,
How many does he work for the town of Dover? Do you know?
He would be giving up Dover.
I think you'd be good about that.
I actually think he might have already given up Dover.
No, he's still-
Whatever
I know.
town
He was
Dover-
as of a month ago, the town planner. but-
Dover or Norfolk,
though, right? Or is
he would be giving up.
Like an
Yeah,
employee?
he's their town, he's their
But
town.
as a consultant, you know what I'm trying to say? He has a contract versus
So those are the questions I had, that how many hours is he working? Does it make it a benefited position
Is he already
suddenly that he wasn't before?
Yeah.
How does it affect his other,
You can't talk
other
about
jobs?
You can't talk with benefited, whether he's a benefited position.
Yeah.
Well, if you're careful, you can.
What's that?
If you're careful, I mean,
The town, is the town planner
That-
position now?
a benefited
It is a
position.
It is
Yes.
a benefited position?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not changing from a unbenefited to a benefited by adding these hours?
That was my question. Thank you.
I like this idea. I think, if we can make it work within the legislation, even better. I mean, does it kind of I guess the other question is, does it meet up with what was approved at town meeting by this citizens petition? Does it match that as well?
I mean, the intent was to have somebody designated as a sustainability coordinator carrying that torch forward. And to me, this does that. I mean, the intent is to apply for grants that are relevant to sustainability.
I mean, can you actually just make the job
Environmental sustainability, I should say.
Can you make the title job planner / sustainability coordinator?
Do you think Hollis, so one drawback is, if he's already 22 hours on planning board and 19 hours here, that's 42 hours or whatever. Do you think Holliston's going to say, well, that doesn't mean
No,
it's
this
time
would
for
be,
him to support
this would
Holliston?
be combining the two.
No, I understand that, but then if he's supposed to be doing some work for Holliston, he's doing that in addition to working 40 hours for Sherborn.
They're looking at, whatever IMA we have, they're going to be getting the benefit of being on a grant with another community.
Yeah,
So when he applies for a grant for Sherborn, he's just gonna add the name Holliston onto the grant?
Yeah, but I'm saying he basically doesn't have too many hours to dedicate to Holliston if he's working 40.
Well, I think well, this says in here, he changed it from 20 hours up to 35, is what?
So that, okay.
The 35, so it'd
Yeah.
be an increase of 15 hours.
We were figuring 23 is the current position. And then
12.
another, 12?
Okay. You know what I'm saying, is if we were
12
really
hours.
splitting it with Holliston, we might have expected more than, he could
Right.
work more than 40 hours, obviously,
Right.
but.
But the 12 hours
But as Paul said.
would be split between,
Yeah.
And I think it's been said that a lot of these grants are just gonna be a matter of writing a grant that includes both names.
Yeah, I think so. Which is good.
So do we wanna, vote on this, or do we want to, what do you think, David? Are we ready to vote on it, or do you?
like I said, 3 months ago, this is what, I'm sorry, I didn't say that 3 months ago. I'm saying this is what
This is what you've been thinking?
could have been implemented very easily with no impact except positive impacts.
So what about before voting? We're doing two things. First, discussing it with Holliston, and secondly, discussing it with the citizen petitioners. Make sure.
I'll go out my back door. I'll tell them that we've talked about it. I think we should maybe invite them, maybe we'll plan on voting on it at our next meeting, so if they have.
Billy's eager to get going, so I think
Yeah.
this.
I can't really
I just don't
do,
want a group coming in and saying, you betrayed
Pass this
us.
without, yeah, exactly, that's a good idea.
I can't do the IMA until we know what we're doing.
Right, so let's plan on having this, revised a little bit, like we said, to make sure it meets up with the legislative requirements, and change the title on it, and we'll make sure the citizens who did the citizens petition are aware that we're gonna be voting on this, hopefully voting on this at our September 12th meeting.
And that Gino is acceptable to.
Yeah, and that the planning board, I think, is on board with this as well. All right.
So that's all I.
Is that all you have?
That's perfect.
Any other select board reports? If not, then we are going into executive session. So for the following, we're going to do an executive session for the following purposes authorized under MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A, subsection 3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation and potential threatened litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigation position of the town and the chair so declares, police union arbitration and alleged unfair labor practice charge. Subsection 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the public body and the chair so declares, police union. Subsection 4, to discuss the deployment of security personnel and devices or strategies with respect thereto. And subsection 3, to discuss strategy with respect to threatened potential litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the town and the chair so declares, library project. The chair does declare on all four, so the board will not return to open session. I need a second and a roll call vote. Motion and second by Mr. Yan. Having a second, I will now have a roll call vote. Mr. Forensis?
Aye.
Mr. Yan?
Aye.
Mr. Waldron?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Morrell, aye. By having passed by a vote of 5-0, the open session is now closed and we will not be returning to open session. We're now in executive session.